Welcome to another episode on the UX On Minds podcast. And today I've got a very exciting guest. I'll be speaking to Anthony Conta. He is a senior product designer at Amazon Music, specifically working on the flow of the music app. And also, he is a visiting assistant professor at the Pratt Institute, leading the design education for students and students pursuing master degrees in product design. So he's got a lot of experience. He's worked in many interesting companies like Nickelodeon, and we're going to go a bit deeper into those experiences, but we're also going to be covering his latest book that he has released. So watch out for that. And also, I'll be leaving in the comments a code that you can use. So there'll be a link to the page that you can purchase this book that he's recently published on UX and the science behind it. And there is a 30% off with the code Conta, and that's until the end of the year. So you've not got much time left to use that code, but I'll be posting that in the comments on LinkedIn and on other socials where I'll be posting this podcast. So let's get straight into it. Sit back, enjoy, and let's go. Okay, so I'd like to welcome Anthony Conta to the podcast today. It's a privilege to have you on. We've kind of come in contact via, I think, ADP list. So it's nice to finally meet you virtually. And yeah, so I'll give you the floor. I'll allow you to kind of introduce yourself, talk about what you're doing now, and then we can go into the book, which a very interesting book. I'm looking forward to talking about it. But I'll allow you to introduce yourself and also the book.
Awesome. Thanks, Dale. Awesome to be here. My name's Anthony. I am a product designer with a ton of years of experience across different things. I'm currently working at Amazon Music, working on the now playing experience of what it's like to, press play on a song or a podcast, and sort of like the experience you get from listening to that content. And my spare time, I teach, I tutor, I mentor. ADP List, as you mentioned, is one of those avenues, but I also teach at Pratt Institute. I teach product design to master students there, in addition to having my own book, which is called The Art and Science of UX Design, a step-by-step guide to designing amazing user experiences.
Cool.
And I'm happy to be here.
Nice, and nice to have you. And I love the title of the book as well. Kind of really gives it that vibe, because also that's one thing that drew me to design in general, and especially UX design, was the art and science kind of elements coming together and being able to produce and create not only like visually pleasing designs, but also functional designs as well, along with the psychology element of the discipline.
Definitely.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. And that was like that art and science piece was something I really wanted for this book. I felt like, as I've gone through the industry, like there's like these moments where I have to be like really creative and kind of like make something, and there's no like process or procedure, but then there's sometimes kind of is. It's like a very like strict regimen of steps that feel very like, data driven, and like you're testing a hypothesis. So I feel like that art and science in this industry just come back and forth and back and forth. Yeah. And just that was kind of the thesis of what's behind the book.
That's cool. Well, congratulations on producing a book. It's I imagine it's a milestone in your life. So
it was a milestone for sure. yeah.
That's cool. And yeah, I've started reading it. I'll admit I've not finished it yet, but so far I'm enjoying it. So looking forward to discussing that book with you. But maybe we can go back to also just kind of your day-to-day job. So Amazon Music.
Sure.
Also, again, I actually use Amazon Music. I love podcasts.
Awesome.
I've got my own podcast, but love listening to podcasts as well. Love the app, and I think it works really well. Obviously, you'll know the ins and outs and see the defects of it, but I love it. But yeah, do you want to maybe go into how eventually you ended up at Amazon Music, kind of your journey into product design, what piqued your interest in this field, etc.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the path. So I actually graduated my school with a master's in financial economics. So, I don't really use that now, but there's a path that took me from there. And I started in antitrust law, doing a lot of research and writing a lot of reports, getting a lot of practice for good writing. By investigating markets for anti-competitive behavior. So it's just like, hey, is this like market like ripe for economic collusion or
Hmm.
of some sort. And I didn't like that at all. I just wasn't a fan of doing that. I didn't really want to spend my time suing people.
No,
So,
I can
and it was
understand.
businesses, not people, but yeah. So I did a pivot and I actually made my own company. I made my own gaming company. So I founded
Wow.
a studio that just like made board games. And
Okay.
the business model was, do a proof of concept, incubate it, play test it, really like develop it, and then go to
Hmm.
Kickstarter and fund it, and then sell it to other publishers. So
Hmm.
that was like my model, and I ended up selling a couple games to Mattel, a few
Wow.
other places, and yeah, it was a fun time. And that's where I really like cut my teeth on design, like really focusing on
Hmm.
like doing research and making sure that I was designing a good product for the customers I wanted to design for.
Sure.
Uh, and then from there, I actually went to Nickelodeon to work on
Ah,
Blue's Clues and other properties like that. So like early education entertainment, taking these
right.
like linear videos, like you
Hmm.
watch Blue's Clues on the TV or something like that, and you like shout at the TV as it shouts at you, and it's like a one-way conversation, but it's like
Right.
synced that it feels like it's a two-way conversation. We
Ah,
took that dynamic and made it on phones so that it was a two-way conversation. Like the video would wait for your response, and whatever response you gave, like it would give you a different response. So like you
ah,
could actually like have a course correction, a choose your own adventure type of experience. It was like an interactive special akin to like Netflix videos
ah.
that like Bandersnatch, but for kids. So
Cool.
that's where I really got like the digital experience in design.
Hmm.
And then from there, I went to a boot camp, General Assembly, and I moved around between Kaplan and Food Network and Vimeo, and I'm at Amazon now.
Cool, very nice. So a varied background. Obviously, your the entry into the field was maybe not the standard one, but I'm starting to find that not everyone has the same journey into product or design or whatever it is, which I think adds to the beauty of the field as well, because everyone has different skills, different backgrounds. That all of these things like bring the quality to the table, for want of a better word. So yeah, that's really cool. So out of those, like, what what has been the highlight of your career so far in terms of maybe a skill that you've learned, or I don't know, a piece of advice that you heard from someone, maybe at Nickelodeon, Vimeo, because you've worked for some pretty established companies or well-known companies. So I imagine within those companies there are obviously people
For
with a
sure.
lot of advice and things to give. So yeah,
Yeah, I've gotten this might be a mixed bag. I have a couple that are like surfacing to top of mind for me.
sure, yeah, go ahead.
So if we talk about like the game design experience, for example, like
Hmm.
finding fun is probably one of the mantras that I'd say that's like one
Okay,
of the most important parts of that experience. Like
yeah.
just, what within this element or what within this experience is just like fun for people to do. And that's what you should like lean into and focus on when you're designing your experience.
Mm.
So that's probably one of the ones. A lot of the corporate positions I've had, there's been this mantra called collapse the triangle. So what
Okay.
that means is like if you want to talk to another person, but you go through like this third person to have that conversation,
Right.
just collapse that triangle and just go directly to that source.
Yeah.
Um, so
Simple but
it's a little bit
effective.
more, exactly, it's a little bit more proactive, a little bit more.
Yeah,
It shows more of that leadership potential and whatnot.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, and then at Amazon, we actually have like all sorts of mantras. Like our leadership principles are very
Hmm.
popular. They're
Yeah.
external facing as well. So if anyone wants to look that up, you can look at them. And I find that I like them quite a lot and use them quite a lot. We have a couple sayings. One of the ones that I use most often is have backbone, disagree, and commit. So what that means is like
Mhm.
when you're, in a situation and you believe something and someone else believes something else, how do you come to a resolution? Like stand
Okay.
for what you believe in, but at the end of the day, you have to like make a decision and collaborate on that decision. And that's the other side of that, which is disagree and commit. You might say, "Oh, I don't agree with this approach. I believe in
Mm.
something else, but I will postpone that belief to do what's right for the customer." And that's kind of like what
Mm.
is the heart of that principle and a lot of the other
Oh,
principles.
that's cool. That's cool. I would say probably those are very much like your interpersonal skills within a team environment. Obviously, with the objective of creating a product for the customer. But those are good ones because generally we might focus on the advice in terms of like a skill, like oh, learn this skill or apply this skill in this way and you'll have a better product or your design skills will level up or whatever. So it's nice to also hear some kind of, yeah, more like leadership skills, how you interact with each other, how you come to a decision as well as a team. I think those are also very useful mantras or
For
things
sure.
to learn. So
For
that's
sure.
cool.
And those leadership principles in particular, like, are something that exists outside of Amazon as
Mm,
well. I've heard, like, ex-Amazon
yeah.
people use them and bring them to the places I've been. For example, at a Food Network, we had someone who was from Amazon, and he brought over some of that
Oh,
culture, some of those principles, into how we built our products.
oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it's
That's
cool
cool.
to
That's
see
cool.
people like exist outside of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. You can kind of carry it over into your
Mhm.
future roles or wherever it may be. That's cool. So obviously that's your more day-to-day role, and as you mentioned before, you've written a book. So how did that come about? Was it something you always wanted to do? Like I don't know, it's this dream. One day I want to write a book, and it eventually just happened to be on UX or on product design. Or was it something that maybe came about through a specific role that kind of just led itself into maybe you had material that you'd already written and that just translated into a book? Kind of how did that come about? Because I'm intrigued into how
Yeah,
books appear.
of course, yeah, and just magically. So this book, I think it was a blend of what you mentioned. I never had a goal of like,
Okay.
I'm gonna write a book. Certainly not a 460-page book. It's
Well,
very long.
absolutely.
That was like never the goal. Like, I
Mm,
think it just kind of happened, but I tend to like push myself and find different opportunities for me. So I've
yeah.
been doing a lot of writing ever since the boot camp, and especially the pandemic, where I had a lot of free time. Um, so within that process, I would just like write articles. I would write like educational content. I make courses in my spare time,
Mm,
and through all of those experiences, I kind of came up with like a curriculum and like a set of like materials that I felt would be useful in like a book format. So I
yeah.
wondered like, oh, maybe I could really push on this. Maybe I could actually like become an author,
Mm,
not just like a blogger or a writer,
mm,
or a teacher. Like, I wonder if I can go to another level. So I had approached a bunch of publishing companies and
mm.
asked them like, hey, do you want like this book? Are you interested? And one of the publishing companies, Pearson, was very interested, and we came to an agreement and worked together to make the book. So yeah.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. So yeah, like I said before, it's a great achievement to have a book out. So what is the purpose of this book? So obviously you briefly touched on it at the beginning, but do you want to give maybe an intro into the book, kind of who it's aimed at and what you hope to achieve with this book in terms of like providing something to the reader?
Absolutely. Yeah. What I'd love to give to the reader is a sense, an opportunity to do design. Like, that's kind
Mm,
of like the point of this book. It really is a step-by-step guide, and that has
okay.
like influenced the creation of it. So this is for people that are just getting into design. They don't really know too much about it, or they're looking to like brush up on a certain skill set and work from examples. Maybe they want to create a portfolio. So this book enables you to do that.
Okay.
Or you're like maybe like a product partner or someone who works adjacent to design, and you want to like understand more about the principles and the processes and the steps
Mm,
across design thinking. So the way that the book is structured is it takes the design thinking models, that we're familiar with. It
mm,
borrows from Nielsen Norman Group specifically, but
okay.
talks about a bunch of the other ones. And you go from like those steps. It's empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and implement. Those are like the different steps of like
Mm,
making a new thing. And it's 8 chapters. The first chapter is the intro to design and what that is. The next six are those 6 steps, and the last one's like kind of like, what do I do now? How do I get a job? That type of stuff. Um, Within each of those core chapters in the middle, for each of those steps, I give you examples of various things you can do in order to make a product. So the way it's organized is you get a theory or a principle or a process, and then I show you examples of those
mm,
things. I break down those examples, and then I actually invite the reader to complete an exercise. Like, there's like a whole bunch of exercises in the book,
okay.
and I've even got like the answers, or at least an answer. Like, there's no one answer in design, but I show
Mm,
you an example of like what that could look like if I were to go through it. So you can sort of like compare, if you do the exercises yourself. And if you go through the whole book, you do all the exercises, you end up with an end-to-end case study, which can then turn
Right.
into a portfolio. So it's almost like this like boot camp kind of like I don't want to call
Okay.
it boot camp, it's not, but like it's like that
No.
type of experience, where you like do a project end to end,
Okay.
um, and end up with like something at the end of it.
That's
Um,
cool. So it's
yeah.
not necessarily only like theoretical or just purely
Mhm.
reading, but there are things that the reader can put into practice and see a physical, well, virtual physical outcome
Exactly.
of what they're designing. That's
Yeah.
that's
And
really cool.
that what you just mentioned, like it's not just the theory. Like that was kind of what frustrated me about some of the books that I read, like as
Mm,
I was like trying to learn.
yeah.
I'd read very like inspirational books. I'd be like, oh, design's awesome, and like you should always advocate for the user, and like you should like work with your stakeholders to make this happen and whatever else.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm really excited. And then I would sit down and do my project, and I'd be like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah,
how do I actually like
it's true.
mechanically like
Yeah.
advocate for a user? Like, what does it mean to like not have bias? Like all these sort of things. And
Yeah,
with
that's true.
this book that I wrote, I wanted to provide some
Mm.
extra details there, some extra steps that you could take in order to do that.
Yeah, no, that's also a good point as well. It's like, yeah, like I love reading and obviously I prefer listening to stuff. So when I was learning, I tended to listen to UX podcasts or just general design podcasts, even targeted at learners. And yeah, like you can read and listen to all this, theory and kind of, oh, this is how it should be done. And yeah, when you actually come to doing it, it's like you have all that kind of knowledge in your head, and it's like, okay, now how do I actually apply it? And then you have to go again and maybe look online, find maybe practical resources to know how to apply. Maybe you understand it, but then to apply it is a different thing. So
Yeah.
that's cool. And could you give maybe an example off the top of your head of one of the kind of practical lessons or things that the exercises the user can do that they can add
Sure.
to their portfolio?
Sure, yeah. So, for example, like a common thing to do is to create a survey in order to find people to talk to. It's called like
Hmm.
a screener survey. It's like you're trying to screen out a bunch of people and get like some candidates that you can talk to for user interviews, so you can understand your problem and like continue to progress down design thinking.
Yeah.
So like finding users can be a challenge. So what I do is I give a bunch of like examples of how like you can find those people to talk to, in addition to how you can construct a survey in order to like filter out the people you want to talk to for your project. So I take a survey that I actually used to do like my own project, and I break down like all the questions, and I say like here's each of the questions and why I asked them and how they're constructed in that way. And then at the end of that section, I say, okay, now you make a survey because you're going to go do this too. Like this is something that I want you to do so you can like work on your projects. So I tell them to make a survey. I give them the principles behind the survey construction and what they should ask and why.
Mm.
And then at the back of the book, you can go to that section and see like, oh, like this is how I would have like made a survey if I were trying to solve this problem. Because I even give a problem that's like a theme throughout the book. I say like,
Okay.
it's like, how would you like help solo travelers? Like, how would you help travelers who are by themselves and like create a product for them that like helps them,
Okay.
go through that travel? And that's like the theme of the exercises. You don't have to use
Cool.
that theme. You could use your own if you want to,
Yeah.
but that's the one that I work from. Like these
Yeah.
exercises can apply to any problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. Also, yeah, because sometimes, especially for new designers or wannabe designers, product designers, it can be difficult to, especially when you've not got the experience to create a case study or demonstrate your work. So also nice that you give kind of that example, a scenario that the user, sorry, getting stuck in in those terminologies that the reader can
Right.
follow throughout the book.
Yeah.
I
And
use
that
that
was,
word so often.
yeah, it becomes so interchangeable. We say customer at Amazon, it's like user, it's whatever. Um, I think that you're hitting on something that was really important to me too for this book, which was
Mm,
this when I was in my boot camp, whenever the instructors would show us like real work that they did, like the
mm,
entire class woke up, sat up straight in their chair, was just stared, glued to like watching these examples, and that was
mm.
really valuable for
Yeah.
us. I wanted to do that. I wanted to provide like that context to look at.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously the student can and the reader can kind of, if they want to use that scenario as well, but they can also mirror it in maybe a scenario that they want to to use in their portfolio. So, no, that's really
Exactly.
cool. And so just thinking as well of people who are maybe transitioning career or are just new to the field and maybe are still looking for their first role. Um, do you have any advice for them? Or it could be from the book, or it could be from yourself, even if you are the author of the book, but you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
what would you like to share with those people?
If you're looking, especially now, it's a challenging time
Mm,
within tech. You know, like
yeah.
it's hard. And what I would say is, if you're trying to make that transition, it can be difficult to do so if you're like just in
Mm,
your own echo chamber and just like trying to apply to jobs and like improve your skills, and like where you spend your time and focus and energy can be really overwhelming. I know it was for
yeah.
me for my transition. I felt like I had to do
Hmm.
everything. I felt like I had to be the best at Figma, or I was using Sketch, but like the best at the tools, the best at networking, interviewing, all this stuff. uh,
Mm,
you need to like give yourself a little bit of space and credit, and just like, this is a very difficult transition to make.
yeah.
It's very difficult, especially now, but just in general, just like trying to like do something new and change your career is very hard.
Mm,
Or even establish your career if you're like going
yeah.
through a university program or something like that.
Absolutely.
um, so it's a marathon, not a sprint, would be what I would say. I know people want their outcome
Yeah.
immediately. I know I did, but it does take a lot of time. And knowing that it takes a lot of time, you have to set up procedures and support systems that allow you to take
Yeah.
that time to burn out. I've seen a lot of people burn out in this
Yeah.
career.
Yeah.
They think they have to do it, and then they never make their transition because they give up because it was like too hard or stressful, or they put too much pressure on
Yeah.
themselves. I would say try to find the support networks that allow you to make this transition. So like leaning on
Mm,
friends and family, leaning on mentors or people in past jobs or experiences. I spoke to a lot of people who had gone through the boot camp before me, and I spoke to like some of my ex coworkers, told them I was making this transition, and they really helped support me and find me opportunities
yeah.
in order to get my first like foot in the door for a product design role
Mm.
specifically.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really nice piece of advice. It's something that helped me. Like I was in the beginning when I was even just thinking about transitioning over, didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do at the time, but I knew I wanted to be in this field in some capacity. And yeah, that was like I got in contact via LinkedIn, one of my first connections on LinkedIn, and that's why he mentioned to me like reach out to people, don't expect the world from them, kind of that they're going to give you a job like that. But yeah, set up that support network, whether it be people in the field, but also, yeah, friends and family, let them know you're doing this transition. And yeah, I also love the phrase it's a marathon, not a sprint. And it's true because the first, I think, yeah, the first year in my transition, I thought, yeah, I just started. Yeah, within a year, I should be ready for a job, or I should be, I don't know, at least towards the end of my first job. I had to wait 3 years for my first opportunity to get my first job. So yeah, and I'm thankful though for those 3 years, because in those 3 years, I was able to really define and understand what I wanted to do, and also it gave me the skills and also the opportunity to learn properly. Because I think after the first year, I wouldn't have been as ready as I was after 3 years of training and reading and volunteering and all freelancing, etc. So yeah, no, I completely agree with what you mentioned.
Yeah, I love that you stayed with it. I know some people that have given up like after 6 months, after a year. They're just like, this isn't for me. I can't do it. I got to go do something else.
I
It
wanted
can
to a
take
few
a long
times,
time.
but
Yeah. Right. But you made it. So
yeah, exactly. I'm one of the success stories. And also, like that, this is one of the main reasons why I want to set up the podcast and allow kind of just a platform for these sorts of discussions with seniors in the field. Just to kind of, because sometimes when I was like transitioning, like you view these people in the field who have these jobs that you're aiming to get as like, I don't know, these wonderful people that it must have been so easy for them, or I don't know, they went straight from university to their first job and now they're, but yeah, you view them in this kind of magical way that like, I don't know, that they're just better than you, for want of a better word. But
they also had their challenges, and they also went through possibly a career transition or just a transition into getting their first job. And it isn't always as easy as you think it is. So speaking to people on the podcast and just outside the podcast as well, like I found that everyone goes through these challenges, also this self-doubt as well. Like, can I do it? Am I good enough for this job? Or like, am I ready for my first job? And will I ever get my first job? So yeah, I completely agree with that premise that you mentioned before. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Of course, yeah. And I don't know of an overnight success story. Like it
No,
might
no.
seem magical to you as like an observer, like to you and I. There's a story from like Kickstarter, where like I was doing my Kickstarter and I was trying to do some research, and I found this one company, and they just like raised like, I don't know, like $500,000 in their first day. And I was just like, that's incredible. I've never heard of this company. How'd they do it? Like, it felt like like a flash in the pan, overnight success.
Yeah.
But they had spent like years, building an audience, building their product, like not necessarily advertising or promoting themselves, but just like making sure that they had the fan base ready to go. And you don't see all that work that someone puts into it,
No.
like if you're just not privy to that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like anything as well on social media that obviously on LinkedIn you see the highlights of someone's career. You see that you can look through their past experience, like I look through yours, like, oh wow, Nickelodeon, Amazon Music, Vimeo, all of these Food Network, and you think, oh wow, this person's like, that must be amazing. And obviously you are amazing at what you do in your job, but obviously there's a backstory to that. There are challenges, there are doubts, there are imposter syndrome, etc. And even probably now you have those feelings from time to time. So yeah, no, that's one thing that I also want to share with people is I did it, and we all do it, but don't view kind of what you see on LinkedIn or wherever it might be as that like you're the one that's the only one that's facing those challenges, and everyone has a super duper life, super duper career that's going super well. It's not the case. Everyone has these challenges, and everyone at some point has had to transition over. And like you're saying, I don't know of any kind of overnight success stories. Like it's a marathon. And also just value and cherish the time that you do have to study and to make that transition and make the most of it, because once you do have your first role, that's when you do really need to start producing results. So enjoy the time where you've not got that pressure, and just enjoy the process.
Yeah, as a teacher, I do get to live somewhat through like my students and like see them do things like without boundaries, without like those requirements, without that pressure to deliver, and it's like, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
The amount of creativity that they're allowed to have.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's stressful when you start having to meet deadlines, and obviously I'm a researcher, so you've got to convince stakeholders to listen to your research and to read your research, and there's all those sorts of challenges you got to face when you do eventually get a role or whatever like role eventually you get. So yeah. For your book, where can people find it?
Sure.
Where is it sold so people can read it?
Yeah, of course. So it's sold on Amazon. That's like the easiest place to find it. You can just search the art and science of UX design. It is also available on the publisher's website. And if you go to the publisher's website, Pearson, that's right.
Okay.
There's like a very long URL. Maybe that's something, if we take a break from the podcast, is that something you can provide in like show notes, or is that something?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'll share that. Okay. On the show notes and also on LinkedIn.
Then I'll redo a portion of this part. Yeah, so it's available on Amazon.com. That's probably the easiest place to find it. You can just search the title of the book, The Art and Science of UX Design. You can also go to the publisher's website, which will be in the show notes. And if you go to the publisher's website, you can actually use a code, my last name, CONTA, to get 35% off until the end of 2023. So that could be of interest to some people if they'd like. So either of those places, it's a pretty steep discount.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, 35%, especially in this economical age.
Right. Yeah. I'd recommend that one, but Amazon too, if you want 2-day shipping.
That's cool. And I recommend it. Like I said, I've started reading it and enjoying it so far. And also as well, it can be an alternative because at the time, I've mentioned this before on the podcast, that I have a family. So at the time I was working 2 jobs, and I know many that speak to me who I speak when I'm mentoring. They're in the same position, like they can't afford to go to boot camp, if that's what they want to do, or whatever it may be, even go to university and study, I don't know, and interact, like visual interaction or whatever that may be. So to have a form of a book or things like this, that it's a lot more economically viable for certain people in those positions that have a family or just physically, like economically can't afford these courses. So yeah, I highly recommend it. And yeah, thanks for sharing this book with me today, and also our listeners.
Yeah, definitely. I believe in like tiny experiments, like trying things out before you like commit to them. I've had friends who've like committed to boot camps and then just like didn't do anything after, so like I would highly recommend like a test project, reading a book before doing a 6-month boot camp, in what ways can you like try this on if you're thinking about it? And I think this is like a great way to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course, like it's a way to just introduce yourself to the field, find out if you like it, and then once you decide if you want to do a boot camp, or if that's not affordable for you, if you like I did the self-learning route, might be a bit of a longer process, but yeah, like definitely reading this book or things like this can definitely help introduce you to the field. So yeah, thanks for coming on today, Anthony. It's nice to properly meet you as well, and yeah,
of course, thanks for having me, Dale. Had a great time.
No problem. So we'll end here. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.